Alright guys, welcome back to my shop and also welcome back to my channel. And what we're going to be doing in today's video is we are going to be making a brand new Mr. Sawdust table for my radial arm saw, so don't go anywhere. Alright guys, as I mentioned before, welcome back to my shop and also welcome back to my channel. And it's been quite a while since I last posted a video. This summer has been very busy with me. The last video I did, which was in regards to planter boxes, and I was giving you some tips and tricks on making planter boxes. And this summer I've been very busy making planter boxes, and so that's been a very successful side hustle for me this particular summer. But right now, things are kind of slowing down, being that we're coming to the end of summer and we're about to get into fall. So I finally got some downtime now, so I figured I'd go ahead and upload another video. So what we're going to be doing in today's video is we're going to be making a new table for my radial arm saw. And we're not going to just be making a other table, we're going to be making a Mr. Sawdust table. So you're probably wondering, who is Mr. Sawdust and what on earth is a Mr. Sawdust table? Well, let me introduce you. This gentleman here, this is Mr. Sawdust, and his name is Wally Kunkel. And he is a gentleman that popularized the use of the radial arm saw and popularized this particular tool. And he wrote the book literally on the radial arm saw. In fact, if you're going to get a radial arm saw, I highly encourage you to get his book, which is called Mastering the Radial Arm Saw. And in it, he has lots of techniques and things to help you set up the radial arm saw and to be able to get the full potential out of this particular machine. Now, there's going to be some other, there's also, in addition to that book, there's some other books that I recommend, and I will talk about those later at the end of the video. But we got a lot of work to do in this particular video, so let's get started. Okay, for this project I will be using birch plywood. Here I am marking out two pieces that I will be using later on. The offcuts are going to be used to make the fence. This 48-inch aluminum fence that you see here from Craig is going to attach to the front of the fence, which you'll see later on. The Mr. Sawdust table is made of two flat surfaces that are laminated together with a set of steel bars running in between. The steel bars help to reinforce the table and to keep it from sagging. And if none of this is making sense to you, don't sweat it, it will in a few minutes. Here I am marking out where the dados will go on one piece of plywood, where their steel bars will go. I'm going to cut a dado on the opposing side of the plywood, then flip it around and cut the other dado. I repeat those same cuts on the second piece of plywood so that they will both match perfectly. Next, I'm going to measure out where I'm going to place the third dado cut in the middle, and then repeat that same cut for the second piece of plywood.
In order to secure the steel bars in place, I am using epoxy. By the way, I will include links to all of the items that I use in this video in the description in case you are interested. Once I got the steel bars in place, I applied a thin layer of glue to the plywood to keep it from bowing. I then attached the other piece of plywood by inserting wood screws from the bottom. After I got the sandwich put together, I needed a large flat surface to keep the table flat as possible while the glue dries, and what better place to do that than the island in my kitchen. The good news is that my wife and kids weren't home that day, and the only person that saw me do this was my cat Einstein. After the glue cured, I then aligned the table with the support brackets, making sure it was perpendicular to the main arm on the saw. To secure the table, I am using hex head bolts that will go in from the top. Once I drilled the holes, I used a Forstner bit to drill countersink holes in the top. This will ensure that the head of the bolts will be flush with the top. Okay, this is where things start to get interesting. For the table that I am building, I'm going to be using these T-tracks that accepts a miter bar on your standard table saw miter gauge. The idea is that with the miter gauge slot, I can insert the miter gauge from my shopsmith and use it to not only cut different angles, but to also use it to hold a piece of wood in place when doing a cross cut. You'll get to see this in action at the end of the video. Another part of the Mr. Sawdust table design is the use of a sacrificial top, which can be a 1/4 inch plywood or MDF. For my table, I decided to go with MDF. Now that the MDF top is secured, I'm going to route out the slots for the miter tracks. When routing out a lot of material, it's best to make several shallow cuts. That way it doesn't burn up your router bits. I found this out the hard way. To To secure the miter T-tracks in place, I'm using a special drill bit called a fix bit, which helps to keep the drilled hole in the center. I will include a link in the description if you would like to get a set of these bits. They are also very useful when installing door hinges. If you remember at the beginning of the video, there were two off-cut pieces that I set aside. Those pieces are going to be used for my fence system. In order for the fence to be secured in place while using the miter bar T-tracks, I'm going to have to cut out notches on the plywood so that they will fit over the miter T-tracks. My plan is to glue the two pieces together, trim them down to size, then cut out the notches. A while back I upgraded the headstock on my Shopsmith to the new Power Pro, and I absolutely love this motor. This thing is an absolute pleasure to use. If you want to add a fantastic woodworking tool to your shop, I highly recommend getting a Shopsmith. Best investment ever. To cut out the waste, I'm just going to use a Japanese saw followed by a Copeland saw, and then I'm going to clean up the edges with a good sharp chisel. Speaking of sharp, back in February I released a video about the Tormek T8 Anniversary Edition. And since then I've had some time to use it, and I'm really digging this particular machine. There are a few added features that make it a great investment. If you would like to check out that video, there will be a link in the description. Now to test it and see if it fits. And voila, it fits. At the beginning of the video I mentioned that I was going to be using a 48-inch Craig auxiliary fence with this particular setup. To secure the aluminum fence, I'm going to be using these T-bolts. The fence will slide over the T-bolts and then tighten down with some knobs on the backside to hold it in place. In order for the fence to line up with the T-bolts, I'm using the fence to make marks so that I can drill the holes accurately. Okay, when I went to install the fence, I did not realize that the T-bolts were long enough, so I went to put these knobs on the back. I actually had to go back and drill a small counterbore on the back of the fence in order for the knobs to fit, so that's what I'm doing here. Okay, I went ahead and made a cut in the fence to mark the location of the saw kerf. Here I am lowering the blade to make a shallow cut in the table about 1/8 of an inch to allow me to make cross cuts. I reinstalled the Craig fence, and off camera I cut the aluminum fence in half. In case you did not know this, you can cut aluminum with a miter saw or a chop saw because aluminum is a soft metal. You just have to take your time and go slow. Before I can wrap up this project, I need to finish completing the fence system. I need to make a shallow dado on the back floating table that helps us secure the fence. This will allow me to get full range with the miter gauge that I'm using. You'll see what I'm talking about here in a minute. And now it's time to make a test cut and wrap this project up.
All right, guys, that's about it for this particular video. Fortunately, I don't have any more footage of me using the radial arm saw with the new table that I built. I had recorded some footage of me using the miter gauge with the T-track system that I installed, but unfortunately it either got lost or deleted. If I do happen to find that footage, I will create a separate video and upload that to my channel for you guys to watch. As I mentioned at the beginning of the video, if you are seriously thinking about getting a radial arm saw, I highly encourage you to get the book by Mr. Sawdust, How to Master the Radial Arm Saw. And also, I did mention that there were some other books that I was going to talk about briefly at the very beginning of the video. These are books that are packed with lots of information, very useful information regarding this particular tool. The first one is called Radial Arm Saw Techniques by Roger W. Cliff. And the second book is titled Radial Arm Saw Basics. That's also by Roger W. Cliff. These are very good books that are packed with lots of useful information regarding this particular tool. Speaking of reading, if you are someone like me that likes to read a lot, I highly encourage you to look into the possibility of signing up with Kindle Unlimited. With Kindle Unlimited, you are going to have access to millions of books that you can download to your mobile device or to your desktop computer. And you're also going to have access to audiobooks, which is going to allow you to listen to your favorite books while driving to work or download it to your mobile device. It's very easy and it's very affordable. I will have a link in the description in case you are interested in a subscription to Kindle Unlimited. All right, guys, to wrap things up, before I go, I just wanted to encourage you that if you have not subscribed to my channel, to subscribe to the channel. And also, if you liked this video, please, it means a lot to me if you would hit that like button. It helps me to share this video with other people on YouTube, and it also helps me to fight the YouTube algorithm. And don't forget to turn on the notifications icon as to when I upload any new content to my channel. Well, before I go, I want to share with you a brief clip of Mr. Sawdust talking about the radial arm saw. And with that being said, I will catch you later.
Now I'm going to let my father tell you a little bit more about this saw.
Yes, sir, Mark, this will be a pure pleasure. I'm addicted to this machine. Now, a lot of fellows will say, I want a table saw in my shop first, and fellows like me say, first comes the radial arm. Truthfully, with your material flowing along this wall parallel with the wall, never having to turn it out into this area out here, you have a machine that works in a confined area. But you've got a lot more than this. This is the only radial arm saw that's dependable, and anybody that does not like a radial arm saw owns one that is not dependable, and it's that simple. This is the most versatile machine in the entire woodworking business for sawing, dadoing, and shaping. And if you don't believe that, you just keep on watching my tapes, because we're going to show you this is true.